We had important installations there, very expensive. All I was saying is, why can't you find another land? Why will you destroy new bungalows and then go and build another one elsewhere at our cost for them? And it wasn't good for me. Here we are.
Well, something we need to pivot the conversation on the National Cathedral properly. From the very inception, the project was presented as a symbol of national unity and spiritual reverence. And so I know many people, even within my party, who out of fear of appearing to be against something spiritual, something that is of God, decided not to speak.
Some isolated Okujeto.
Some isolated the Honorable Okujeto Ablakwa, who I have worked with, and so I am privy to some of the conversations about even some leading members of our society who were on him, asking him to stop his advocacy against the National Cathedral. But
at a point, what he was doing seemed it would be go against the NDC in elections.
In elections, because they thought it was an advocacy against God or some spiritual reverence. Also because of the personalities involved, right, including some of the very high-profile men of God that we have in this country.
And your friends are talking about prosecution.
Yes.
And we are being told that as for prosecution, forget it, because the NDC will not have the courage to prosecute these big men of God heading churches that command millions.
I can tell you on authority that when the forensic audit is done, anyone found to have misappropriated public funds, whether you are the biggest pastor in this country, whether you are a revered man of God, the person will be facing the full rigors of the law. But let me get back to the conversation. Something I spent last night reading the audit report, and the audit report has come to remove the veil around this whole project. And so it is no more a project, a conversation about architecture of faith. It is a conversation of accountability and how well we respect the public purse of the republic. Because when you read the report, the audit report, something right from the beginning to the end, there were many issues that beats your mind. And some of these issues have been mentioned by the Honorable Felix Ofosu-Kwakye in his statement. For example, we are talking about the cost. Initially, what many of us knew was that $58 million was spent on the project. And so we all said $58 million was spent digging a hole, and we described the hole as very expensive. But the audit report is telling us that as we speak, the contractor is still owed about $37 million. And so it brings the cost to close to $97 million. But that is not all. Because something like you said, the conversation should not even start from the project itself. Let's start the conversation from the site in the location. Because there are so many extra costs. For example, the the judges' bungalows were demolished. The state had to spend extra money relocating all these judges. That also came at a cost, and that is not captured in this report. The scholarship secretariat was demolished. Today, the scholarship secretariat is operating in a structure in one of the senior high schools in Accra. And when you visit there, you see the congestion in that office. Ghana's National Scholarship Secretariat was also demolished. Beyond this, as these state properties,
there were private.
We also had private properties, private companies.
Very expensive.
Some are still in court. Some have sued the government, and they are expecting hundreds of millions of dollars to be paid. And so, from the very inception of the project, this whole project was built on grand deception, and we must not allow faith and our reference for God to blind us from getting into the issues, because this project started
grand
deception because President Akufo-Addo told us that it was his personal pledge to God. And something, let's be fair, all of us as politicians, we make personal pledges to God in elections. And so I may promise God that when you grant me victory in my elections, I will donate to building a church project, or I will donate to some orphanage or what have you. These are personal things that you do when you pay from your personal resources. And so this project was supposed to begin as a personal project, personal resources of President Akufo-Addo. Then all of a sudden, a project that was supposed to be his personal pledge to God now transformed into a national project that was even when Kabila went to court, and they even lied to the court that it was going to be personal resources and donations from churches and what have you. Something, many churches in this country donated towards the project. I recall the Pentecost Church, for example, donated several millions that they could have used to support some of their members to access higher education. Millions they could have used to provide water for some communities that their churches are located in that they cannot find water to drink. When you come to my constituency, I have a big Pentecost church at Dekpo. In Dekpo, there is no water. But people in Dekpo also contributed because there was a national directive by the church that all of you every Sunday contribute some amount of money towards the building of the National Cathedral. All of this went on, and as we speak, the audit report is telling us that all the financial laws were breached. For example, it is basic knowledge that the PPA Act says that a PPA must give approval before a contract is awarded. But in this case, the payment vouchers that were presented indicated that payments were made in September, PPA approval was given in December.
The PPA law allows for ratification. No, something can be done ahead, and then you go and get a ratification.
But the ratification cannot be done in a vacuum.
That's right.
There must be justification. For example, in a medical emergency where maybe the procurement of a certain drug will save lives, it is permitted that you may engage in the procurement and go for ratification. But tell me what emergency occasioned in this National Cathedral
business.
We need
to be quick about this. Yes. I wanted to know why your government is projecting a management letter as though it was the conclusive, finding.
No, we are not. We are not. What happened? What I can tell you, what happened is that something from last week, we started seeing a certain propaganda in the media. The Secretariat of National Cathedral, the National Cathedral Secretariat, took portions of the report which says the report represents a true and fair representation of the financial statement.
Was it MPP members who were doing this, or it was
even the pastors, MPP members, pastors, members of parliament? I can mention some of them. They started circulating that aspect. Meanwhile, in basic accounting, we all know that when they say this report it represents a true and fair assessment or view, it doesn't mean that there are no irregularities. So when you go deeper into the report, we decided to chronicle all the other issues that the report listed, which management is unable to respond to. Now, government has decided...
Why did you, in replying those people who were circulating that, why did you, in replying them, depend on the management letter rather than the audit report itself?
The audit report was published, and if you paid attention to Felix's statement, press conference yesterday, he stated even in the press release that he was going to release the audit report after the press conference, and he published it even on his Facebook. Now, when you go into the report, that is where all the issues have been well explained. Issues about donations, for example, as much as 38 million Ghana cedis through mobile money donations were said to have been reversed or unsuccessful. And the third party, so the telcos are supposed to tell us that indeed, if I tried sending 100 Ghana cedis to Kofi Bentel, and later Kofi says the money or the transaction was unsuccessful, there should be evidence of a reversal to me. Okay. But all this evidence has not been, they've not been able to provide it. So we have occasioned a forensic audit. Now, forensic audit and an audit. The slight difference is that the forensic audit will allow the auditors to target very specific issues and go into the details. And this will bring out the individuals involved, which people made the payment, and anyone who flouted the laws.
Thank you.
I'm saying again on authority that regardless of their stature in society, they will face the full rigors of the law.
Whatever happens, you must end.